Welcome to the Lotco Business Podcast, a show all about helping you as a retailer, brand, or creative understand the actual business side of running your business. I offer straightforward, practical advice about the nitty-gritty of making money from your creative passion. We will be covering bite-sized business and marketing lessons, as well as interviews with experts and trailblazers in the fashion, homewares, and design industries. My name is Melissa Robbins. I'm a business coach, colour-loving, non-coffee drinking Melburnian. Let's get into it. Hello and welcome to today's episode. Today we're going to talk all about profit. Now, I had a different initial idea for this episode where it's about, how to make more money in your business. But I think that gets confused with sales. So I just wanted to make it clear that what we're talking about here is making more profit in your business, how to have more left over at the end of the day for you, either as, to invest back in your business or to keep as a income for yourself. So we're talking about profit. Now, I want to dive into a few things, but first of all, let me clear up that I am not a financial advisor, an accountant, or a bookkeeper. I did do a certificate for in bookkeeping maybe 15 years ago, but let's not use that as the, that I'm giving you this advice and that this is gospel and that you should take this and no other advice at all for going with your financials. Because what I want to talk about today is the profit and loss statement. And some people might be like, oh, I don't want to talk about that. Who cares? I don't want to see that. I only see that once a year when my accountant sends it through, or, I avoid looking at it. I avoid my books. I avoid looking at my numbers because it freaks me out too much. But I want you now to try and make a practice of looking at your profit and loss regularly, understanding, keeping things up to date so that you can get a good view of where your business is at and what it looks like. Ideally, you would make an appointment with yourself or with someone else who you may work with, whether it's a bookkeeper or whether it's with, someone else that you work with in your business, to go through every once a month and look at where you're at. What does your gross profit look like? Where are your expenses at? Are they on track for the same as last year? Can you reduce any? Is there in things that you don't really need to be spending money on? What does your net profit look like right now? Where are you, making tweaks and changes? Sometimes you've made big investments in your business, so you don't have, that shows up in there as well. Like you might have ordered new fit out for your store, or maybe you've gone, included a new warehouse in where you work from or stuff like that. Anyway, there's big things that come up. But what we want to do is have a good understanding of what's going on so that you can make better decisions about your business moving forward. Now, the reason I'm talking about the profit specifically today is because I think too many people focus on the top line sales only. They only look at their revenue. They only look at their top number, what their sales are each day, what their sales are for that month or quarter, but they don't actually look at the other aspects. And I think that is crucially important because, as you all know, or as you may know, you can have all the sales, but sometimes you're like, where's the actual money though? I'm not actually having this amount in my bank account at the end of the month or whatever it might be. So understanding what's going on is super important. Remembering that famous saying that sales are vanity and profit is sanity. So really making sure that you really focus on your profit and look at that as a key metric as opposed to just your sales. What we want to do is understand our profit and loss, and I'm using my hands here when I'm speaking and I always sort of, do this when I'm in Zoom meetings too, and I look at the profit and loss from a top-down view. So you're looking at the top is you've got your top line sales, your actual income, your sales that have come into the business, the income. And that should be broken up if you've got a product-based business into the different types of sales revenue. You would maybe have your income broken down from direct to consumer, like online sales. You may have your pop-up market stalls, so like when you're in-person events. You may have your wholesale sales, so if you're selling to other brands, other stores. You may have, if you have distribution, you may have that broken down into seeing what's going on there. You may also have, other miscellaneous sales that take place, like maybe you sell some stuff to your school, or maybe you sell some stuff to some different locations that aren't under the other umbrellas. So ideally you would have your top line sales broken down into different groups so you can see where the different income streams and how well those different income streams are doing as well. So that's number one. Then your cost of goods is next in your profit and loss. So looking at that and understanding how much your goods actually cost you to generate those sales. Like, what are you actually spending on the goods to generate the sales that you have? Now, obviously, you may have extra stock than what the sales that you've actually got. So you might have spent that money on the goods before you actually got the sales for them. So your accountant can break that down in terms of, like, what is the cost of goods for those sales that you've actually had? And then also, what other stock do you have available to sell that you've got, that may have not sold yet? So, but if you understand what your gross profit is, ideally you would use for example, Shopify. So Shopify allows you to enter your cost price into when you enter in your product in initially, when you're loading it up. And then that can give you a really good view of what your gross profit is for all the different sales that are taking place. You can do reports within Shopify that showcase what your actual gross profit is per product, and also what your overall is, or for a particular period of time, what it is as well. Because we all know that whatever you set your price at doesn't necessarily what you sell it at. You might have things on sale. You might have things like super discounted. You might have things that you donate and give away. So then they've gone from your list as well. So when you're looking at your cost of goods, that is how much the goods actually cost you. Make sure that you don't put, and this is where accountants do this well, they don't put in things that aren't actually part of the cost of goods. So they won't put in, let's say if you've got a sales agent, they won't put in that because that's an expense. If you've got tissue paper that you use to wrap your orders, that's not a cost of goods. That's a marketing expense. That should not be in your cost of goods section. Depending on how you make your product, your labor costs might be included in your staff expenses as opposed to within the product. So when you're calculating out your actual pricing for your product, there are some things that you want to make margin on. You want to actually, double or triple what your actually cost of goods are. Other times they're just costs that you need to account for, but you don't need to make margin on them. So they're the things like you should, if you used free shipping on your website, you shouldn't add $10 to every one of your cost prices in your cost of goods and then multiply that many times to get your wholesale and retail price, because you don't need to make money on that shipping. You just need to cover the costs of that. So you need to have a good margin in your product to account for that, but you don't need to make the margin on it as well. All right, so let's just go back. So we've got the top line sales. We're looking at that. We're focusing on what that is. That's all some people focus on. Then we want to look at your cost of goods. That should all be entered in. And then you should know per product as well, per SKU, what your actual gross profit is, because you want to have an overall average that you understand where your business is at each month. And again, that's what a KPI that you might track in your monthly meeting with yourself. And then looking at the rest of the things that are going on in your business, underneath your cost of goods is all your expenses. So understanding what they are, if they're on track to what they normally are, if they're sort of in industry averages, like are you spending the right amount of money on marketing compared to what your sales are? Have you got the right amount of balance between staff and what your sales are? These are the things that accountants and bookkeepers can talk to you about as well, or accountants, and really help you understand in different industries where the sort of norms are as well. Because all those other expenses obviously then impact your net profit. So what's left over after your top line sales, you take away your cost of goods, you take away your expenses, you pay your tax, and then you've got a net profit left over. So what is your net profit? Understanding that and knowing what that is, ideally your wages, just for example, should also be in your expenses, because you want to make sure you're actually getting an income from your business as well. Depending on where you are in your business, when you're starting out, you've got to put everything back in. If you're sort of 4 or 5 years down the track and you're still not making money from your business, then you need to have a look at what's going wrong and why that's not happening, because that is not what you want. That is not ideal, doing all this work for not actually getting a reward and return on your investment and your time and energy as well. All right, so the reason I started talking about this, though, was because I wanted to talk about how to make more money in your business and have more profit in your business. So let's have a look at all the different places that you can have a think about and tweak and change so that you actually have more of a net profit at the end of the day. So I sort of had to go through what that profit and loss looks like from the top to the bottom to help you understand why we want to focus on, how to get more net profit at the end of the day. Because you don't necessarily need more sales. Maybe you need to make some changes within the other aspects of your business, not just the top sales. And it's not to say that you don't need to chase more sales and always want to improve your business and get more sales. But maybe there's some other things that you can tweak first before you get to scaling, because if you can get some foundational elements right about your business in terms of what your profit margins are, what you're spending money on, where you're going right and wrong, or if you're spending too much in one area or not, then that's going to help you as you scale have more left over at the end of the day as well. All right, so if your gross profit isn't great, then that's the first place to start. So looking at your gross profit, understanding what your average is per product, and then average, whether that's per month or per year, what it looks like, that's where you can start to make tweaks and changes. What are some of the things that you can do to change that? One, you can look at what your deal is with your manufacturer. Can you get a better deal if you, let's say, increase your minimum order? Can you get a better deal if you use sea freight instead of air freight? Can you get a better deal if you source your products from another manufacturer, a different one, or have a couple so that you've got, you haven't got all your eggs in one basket as well? Is there an option there? Often when I was doing my children's wear brand, we would de-spec things all the time. So we would put out a product, we would say, yes, we want this jacket, we want these jeans, we want this done. And then the factory would come back to us with the price and would be like, okay, what can we remove here to just reduce that price a little bit? Because it's just not going to work for the price that we want to retail that at. How can we take away some elements that are not going to distract from the product, but maybe things that we don't need on there? Do we need that extra zip? Do we need to have that French seaming? Not that we French seamed anything with kids wear, but you get the idea. Like, what can you do and what can you change? And having a good relationship with your factory, with your suppliers, is really important here, that you can always tweak and change those things. Does your packaging get made in Australia? Can that be made offshore if that's, fits in line with your values and what your product is and what you're selling? Are there other options that you can think about and look at to help you get that better gross profit margin? Always talking to factories about, if you change your order volume, how would that change? Again, when we worked with our factory in China, what they would do is send us, if we ordered 100, 200, 300, 400, 500, how the price would change. They would give us those numbers, so then we could make the decision. Different products we might order higher volume based on that price that they're going to give us. So work with your factories, work with your suppliers, work with all the different elements of what makes up your product to help you see if you can get a better margin and at the end of the day, get more profit left over there as well. If you're a retailer, understanding what your gross profit is, most of the time, if you're selling other people's products, the maximum it would be 50, because you're just buying and selling other people's and you can't change the price that much. Ideally though, most of the time though, it's not 50 because you discount, and everyone does, you're sort of part of business. You might have, not get full margin on some products. There's, you might have to, there might be losses in lots of areas like wastage and stuff. So you might not make that full margin. What you can do though is try and figure out how you can add in more products into your store that have a slightly higher margin, so that your average is still over 50, ideally closer to 60, which is very hard to do for a retail store. And I'm talking about lifestyle product-based retail stores here, fashion, lifestyle, homewares. If you're selling things like books or food, the margins are different and they change. So talking about products and homewares, giftware, fashion and all that sort of stuff as well in here. Beauty as well. So, all right. So can you find some products that you maybe can get a better margin on, that you can be your like bread and butter sort of products that you sell maybe at volume? Can you change the packaging on one of your products? And this is not if they're branded products, but if they're non-branded products, so clean skin products, I've heard someone refer to it as. Can you get some of those products and slightly change, the price that you charge based on, because you're adding something extra to it, or the packaging's changed, or you've bundled something up together to make it more exciting and look more luxury, so therefore you can get a better price on that. Can you change the price on some products? Depends on what it is and depends on if they're branded or not. Can you, if you import or you create some of your own products, can you increase the price of those slightly so that you can get a better deal and get better margin at the end of the day? It's not always about getting more top line sales. And I'm going to say that again and again, because this is what I'm focusing on here, that your end of the day, your net profit doesn't always come from more sales. All right. So I've said that, I've harped on about that a bit. All right, so next we can focus on not necessarily acquiring new customers all the time, but working with our current customers and looking after our current customers more, nurturing them more, servicing them more, looking out for them more, and making them feel more special so that they spend more as a lifetime value, and you're not always trying to acquire new ones. Because as we all know, it costs a lot of money to acquire new customers. The customer acquisition cost per, actually getting those new customers can be really high. So how can you look at nurturing your customers that you have more? And one of the things I always look at as a metric when I look at someone's website is their customer return rate. So if your customer return rate is under 20, then you need to focus on getting more of your current customers to come back again and again. If your customer return rate, like I heard someone speak one day and it was up to 90 or 80 or 90% or something like that. That to me says there's not enough new customers coming in, but obviously it also says that your customers return again and again and again, and they love buying from you repeatedly. So how can you encourage that without having to always acquire new customers and spending on acquiring new customers? I hear people say to me, if I just can afford Facebook ads, then my business will turn around and all my problems will go away, so to speak. No, that is not the case. Facebook ads can be awesome. They can be great for acquiring your customers and getting in front of more eyes. 100%, it's a good avenue for reaching new people. But you should be focusing on what you've got already and trying to nurture those people before you start trying to acquire new ones all the time. Now, if you think that you've nailed your email marketing, you've really nurtured your customers, you've got great VIPs, you've got great customer return rate, then by all means go out and search for more customers, because especially as well if you've got your supply chain and your pricing sorted and your product nailed about which type of product you have at which time, then you can acquire new customers. But I think establishing some foundational things first, like we just talked about the pricing and margins, and then making sure your product is right product mix for the right time of year and the right categories that you have available as well. Hello, lovely. If you're looking for a way to grow your product business without relying on Facebook ads or posting daily on social media, then I invite you to register for my free masterclass. This is happening very, very soon, and inside of this masterclass, I'm sharing the strategy behind building a profitable product-based business so you can attract consistent customers and scale to 6 figures and beyond. I also emphasize how to create a sustainable long-term business, which is such an important factor for me. I'm so excited to be teaching this masterclass soon, so make sure you go and register for your free spot by heading to the link in the show notes below. Now, you've got burn rate, then by all means go out and search for more customers, because especially as well if you've got your supply chain and your pricing sorted and your product nailed about which type of product you have at which time, then you can acquire new customers. But I think establishing some foundational things first, like we just talked about the pricing and margins, and then making sure your product is the right product mix for the right time of year and the right categories that you have available as well. Can you outsource more tasks in your business or employ more staff in your business? And again, depends on what your percentage you already spend on staff, so that you can focus on more bigger picture things in your business and work on the business more as opposed to in the business. Are you doing $20 tasks? Are you doing tasks that don't need to be done by you instead of paying for someone else? And that's costing you money in the long run rather than saving you money. It's the same thing like people talk about, getting a cleaner in the house. As an example, it will cost a certain amount of money to get a cleaner, and they're definitely not cheap these days. But you get a cleaner in the house, by you not doing it, what time are you saving that you can then work on your business as well? That is one of those things. Is it costing you to not have one, for example? How do you view, if you're spending money on staff, can you get them to be doing the tasks that you don't need to be doing, and therefore you can spend more of your time and focus on how to strategize and plan your business, look at these sort of things in your business and focus on that big picture. What other sales channels should you be looking at? What other avenues are there for tweaking your profit margins at the end of the day? All right, next, looking at the systems that you have in your business. Is there some sort of system that you can spend money on to save you money in the long run that's going to help you move through that product faster and therefore you get better overall margin? Can you employ staff to focus on, unpacking that product, getting it on the website faster so that you can sell that faster and the sell through is much higher rate and you get better margin for that product? Can you have an inventory system that tells you, you've had a certain amount of stock for a certain amount of time and that you need to get rid of that and clear the shelves to get fresh new product in that you can get full margin on? How can you always have systems and figure out, where there's some space and gaps for you to sell products faster, get more of the right product in store at the right time or right product on your website at the right time so that you can actually save money and get better margin in the long run as well? So it's, as I said, it's not always about more top line sales where we're looking at how to save and how to tweak expenses in your business and how to get that better gross profit margin at the top, which therefore leads to a better net margin, profit margin at the bottom. All right. Wholesale. If you wholesale your product, can you have a little look at where you spend your time and what you're spending your time on? One of the things that when I was working at a national brand, one of the things that the consultant came in and talked about and looked at was looking at, the long tail of wholesale. So where are you most of the time with people? And I read this in Tim Ferriss's book, The 4-Hour Workweek, which imagine that would be nice, where they talk about, where do you spend your energy? Are you spending all your time on the most difficult customers or the most painful, let's say, customers? And therefore, is there some point where you can just cut them off? And if you're growing your business and you're starting to wholesale and you want to get into that revenue stream, then you should just start out and get to everyone, not everyone, but as many people as possible. And then you start to figure out where the problems lie or where the issues might come up. But if you've been around for a while and you've got a lot of wholesale customers, is there a tail at the end of your sales chart that shows, how much customers spend, how much time you spend with them? Are you spending all your time and energy on those ones at the end of the tail who give you the least income but take the most amount of your time? So having a little look at that in your business in general, are you spending 80% of your time on those 20% of customers who are giving you the least? Have a little look at that. Have a little think about that. How can you make some tweaks and changes to save you time and money on that area of your business as well? I know this is, something we talked about at the start about the pricing, but increase your price. Is there a way that or is it time that you increase your price in your business and, up to the ante on that? A client of mine that I've worked with for a long time, she's like, I finally just, put my prices up. And I was a bit worried about what customers were going to say, what the response was. And she had lots of people come back and go, about time you did that. Your stuff has been so cheap for so long. It's ridiculous. So, is there a point that you need to increase your prices? Do you need to review and have a look at where they're at? Everything's gone up in price in terms of shipping, actual manufacturing costs, the actual shipping costs in terms of deliveries and stuff. Everything has gone up. Do you need to put your price up as well? It completely depends on your product and where you're at right now. You might be like, no, I've already got good margin. I can't put it up anymore. Competitively, this is where I need to sit. But are you not putting your price up because you're worried about what other people are going to think and you're going to sell less? Or are you not putting it up, because you've already just done that recently? Like having a little think about if that is an option for you to increase some of your prices or prices of particular products to help you get that little bit better gross profit margin at the end of the day. Now, the terminology, I think it's called elasticity of pricing. We're looking at like if you increased let's say that you sold $1,000 worth of product, how many units is that you're going to sell? If you increase your price by a certain percentage, are the sales going to reduce, the same amount? So let's just work that out in a actual practical terminology. So as a very rough, quick explanation of that. So whether the demand of the product drops higher or lower than the actual demand drops. So let's just give an example. If you sell 100 of a product and it costs you $50, it's going to you're going to generate $5,000 in sales. If you put that product up to $55, you only need to sell 91 products to get the same amount of money. So is by putting the price up going to reduce the demand by more than 10%, which is, pretty much that drop from 100 to 90? or is it going to be, slightly above or below that? So that's what you've got to work out. Like, are you better off selling 90 units of something for $55 and getting approximately 5,000? It's going to cost you less in actual cost of goods to pay for that 90 than it was the 100 that you charge $50 for. Or is the demand going to drop so much because you put the price up that it's not, that you're better off not doing that? So figuring out what your demand is for that product, and if you do put your prices up, how much demand would need to drop for it to be, the wrong decision for you, essentially. So looking at what sort of money you would make by selling the particular amount of units that you're selling at the price you sell for now versus what it's going to cost you versus how many units you would need to sell to make the same amount of money, also considering the cost of the goods it's going to cost you as well. I might actually put this in a blog post so you can actually see what I'm talking about. I might refer you to some economics on how this makes sense as well. All right. Another thing to think about, can you lump or group different things together in your business to help you save time and energy as well? Can you focus your tasks in certain times? Like maybe you have a warehouse that you only have someone come in and work 2 days a week to put all your orders out then, as opposed to 5, shorter days during the week, or over 5 days when they're twiddling their thumbs a little bit more. Can you do 2 big launches for your product range? And I wouldn't suggest doing just 2. Depends on what you're doing. Maybe if you just wholesale, and you can do that to save you time and energy. Maybe you can do photo shoots, twice a year, but you only do 2 big ones, and the rest of the time you do have someone else doing content in-house for you. How can you focus your time and energy and where you're spending your money to save you that effort, and also allow, those expenses to change and tweak, and because you can focus more on other aspects of your business as well. All right. So let's just cover a little bit about overviewing how to make more profit in your business. 1, understand what your gross profit margin is so that you know how much is left over when you take away from your top line sales, your cost of goods. So figuring out how to improve your gross profit margin. Number 2 is looking at how you can review your expenses and figure out, whether your expenses can be tweaked or changed to help you have more net profit at the end of the day. So just remembering that it's not always about more top line sales. And I am all for going for top line sales as well. But I think it's really important to understand the other areas of your business before you scale too big, to make sure that you know where your money is going, know what you are spending your money on, and understand the elements of your business with the product business. Because compared to a service-based business, the cost of goods for a product-based business is obviously much higher because you are selling goods. So it's really important to really focus on what your gross profit margin is, understand it, figure out how you can tweak it and change it and improve that if possible, or how can you add more products so that you can improve that, or more SKUs that work in your favor and actually allow you to get a better gross profit margin. How can you also look at your expenses in your business and figure out whether you're spending the right amount for the size of your business and the type of business that you have. And if you can tweak and change any of those, add different systems, add different staff to actually help you change and evolve those. How can you nurture your customers even more so that you're actually not always spending money to acquire new customers, but you're actually getting more out of the ones that you currently have. Anyone who wants to get into my Know Your Email Marketing is a program where I help you nurture your customers through email marketing. That is launching very, very soon. The link is in my bio. And then in my profitable product roadmap, it's all about this sort of thing where I go through all the different elements of having a profitable product business, not just about marketing, not just about sales, not just about pricing, but I cover all the elements to really help you have that profitable product business and be able to scale it. So it's all about trying to help you achieve that. I've been there and done that and not had a profitable product business when I first started out many, many years ago. I've had a retail store. I've had a bit of both and had wholesale and retailed my own product. And there's things that I wish I knew then that I know now that I'm trying to help other people, guide so that you don't make the same mistakes that I did when I first started out 15, 20 years ago. So understanding your profit and loss, really knowing where your income's coming from, knowing the different elements of what's working for your business, where those different sales are coming from, knowing what your gross profit is, knowing what your expenses are regularly, and knowing what your net profit margin is super important to have a long-term, scalable and profitable business, and so that you have that reward for your effort as well. All right, there's a lot to take in that episode. I hope that has helped you, and I hope that's helped you figure out what you should focus on. Don't stress if you hate your numbers. Get someone to help you. Get your accountant to book in a time to sort of go through these things. Have a monthly meeting with yourself to go through some of the KPIs that we talked about so that you're actually tracking certain things. And so you've got a good visual and view of where your business is at. You've got a good overview. So you know if you can, if one of the things you only need to focus on is those top line, because all the other things are in place and you're ready to scale. I hope that helps. I look forward to hearing about, what, if this has benefited you, if this has helped you, or if it's freaked you out a little bit. I will share some more in the coming weeks, and I'll speak to you soon. Okay, bye. Thank you so much for listening to the LotCo Business Podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please make sure you subscribe to receive future episodes as they are released. And I'd be so grateful for a review on Apple Podcast. If you would like a copy of the show notes or any of the links mentioned today, please jump onto my website at thelotco.com.au/podcast. Have an amazing week, and I look forward to chatting to you again soon.